Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards embracing your worthiness and creating extraordinary success? I am your host, Allison Lacusier, a certified professional coach, a professional speaker, and a female founder. As a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals like you unlock their true potential, cultivate unwavering confidence, and live a life aligned with their deepest desires. With years of experience in the coaching industry, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation that occurs when we tap into our worthiness and step into our power. Throughout this podcast, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, tools, and strategies to help you navigate the path towards unshakable self-confidence and fulfillment. Drawing from my own journey as a successful business owner, I'll provide you with practical advice, actionable steps, and thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. From overcoming self-doubt to setting and achieving audacious goals, we'll explore a wide range of topics designed to empower you to embrace your worthiness in every step of your life. Through these engaging interviews and solo episodes, I'll share my experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gained from our remarkable guests who've achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. So if you're ready to leave self-doubt behind, step into your authenticity, and thrive as the empowered woman that you are, then this podcast is for you. It's time to claim your worth, align with your purpose, and manifest the success you desire. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this empowering adventure. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. I am here with an incredible woman, Sarah Cottingham. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. I love your big bright smile.
I feel like I'm just like on the verge of like such an exciting episode because as we have been discussing prior to the show, as we've been discussing in real life over the last like probably 6 months, I am just so impressed with your own transformation and how it like quietly, but then boldly has impacted so many other people already. And I feel like you're just beginning with like the work that you're doing to help transform other people's lives. And I can't wait to talk about that today. So before I get ahead of myself and before I get too excited, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, I'm Sarah Cottingham. I am the owner of Incito Enterprises, a medical dental consulting firm here in Arizona. I also do fractional COO work and now have just recently transitioned into an almost full-time COO position for a DPO here in Arizona. So I have my hands in all kinds of pots and really looking at contributing to people and changing lives from the inside out. Really have taken on a mission of being boldly self-expressed and helping other people do that too. So inside of whatever space that they're in. And, you know, I'm the mom of 2 young entrepreneur men. You know, I have a 19-year-old and I have a 24-year-old. And they are just out living boldly. And I probably find I learn more from them about living boldly with no fear. That generation just doesn't have any. And I'm a dog mom. I'm a dog mom of 1 now. I was a dog mom of 2, but I lost one a few months ago. And I am the youngest of a blended family of 5. And so, you know, I have just the whole Brady Bunch thing going on in my life. And I was a clinically practicing hygienist. So this is my 32nd year. That like hurts to say that. My 32nd year being licensed as a hygienist. So I was kind of brought up inside of the dental space and happened to be gifted that my journey into dentistry started with a true visionary. Somebody that grew his team members and did fine dentistry like he was a craftsman. And that's where I was brought up. That's what I have really strived for when I coach, because that's what I was brought up in. And so it's all just kind of been based around that. And I'm just still figuring it out. I'm in the last half of the better half of my life. So here we go.
I love it. I'm so happy we have you here. So the goal with this podcast, when I started this podcast, I was meeting so many incredible women, and I feel like I was adopted, honestly, when I got into being a dental consultant and a coach. I was 29 when I started my business, and I feel like I was like adopted by all these like powerful, amazing, strong women that I just looked up to and felt so connected to and just felt so like loved on. And you were one of them. You were one of the first like women I met. And I remember like looking at you and being like, she's a badass. I can tell. Like, I know she is. And the goal with this podcast is to help my audience get to meet some of these incredible women and then also learn from them. I learned so much in my career from like the women around me and like their strength, their mistakes, their lessons, their like the life that they've lived. And I feel so grateful for that. And so really my goal today is to help people kind of learn from you and hear from your experiences and from the things that you've gone through. And I've been so fortunate to get to know you so much better over the last 6 months, I would say. I always love to introduce my guests in a way of how I got to know you, like really know you. And I'll
Yeah.
just share, we were at the Do conference about, I don't know, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. And I was going through a tough time. Like I was traveling too much. I was burning out. I was feeling very lonely because I was alone a lot. And of course, at Do, the Dental Entrepreneur Women Conference that Ann Duffy hosts, shout out to Ann Duffy. She organized this in a way that you don't get to pick who you sit beside. Like, there's no like cool kids seat.
No.
There's no like cool girls go sit over here. Not at all. It's like so connected, and you get on a badge like where you're gonna sit. Both days, I'm sitting right beside Sarah, and I'm like, universe, like what are you trying to tell me right now? Like, why are we connected? We had an amazing walk together. And really, like, you just sat there and held this like really strong presence for me. And at the end of the conference, I was, in tears beside you
Yeah.
because you were just there to see me and hold space for me to know that it was like okay to feel tired and to feel sad and to feel lonely. And it was just such a powerful experience for me that I will always be grateful for, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we go through in our lives and we think like we must be the strong, perfect, together woman. And sometimes we're just not. Like sometimes we're tired. And to have a person next to you be like, it's actually really okay. And I'm here for you and I'll hold space for you was just so powerful for me. So thank you for that. Um,
100%. Um, when we don't have that and we don't give ourselves the permission, it's when bad things happen. And,
yes.
you know, um, and that's probably why I'm on the journey that I'm on now, is because, I lost a brother to suicide. And, my youngest son was 6 months old when he passed, and I mean, he's 24 now. So, um, and I've lived my life, from a place of that I believed that that was the most selfish act any one human could do. And that's how I lived my life. And, until you find yourself in a really dark place. And then you start realizing, wow, now I know that, I know why somebody would do that. So, the last couple of years, there was a few rocky times, and, I got really, really present to what the gift was in all of those, and, that those things were the training grounds for other things, and that it showed me that, there there is a opportunity to, help other badass individuals figure out that it is okay to take care of yourself and that you shouldn't be sacrificing yourself, which is where the course that I just recently did, where that whole title came from, because I felt like there was a point in my life where I was serving everyone at a capacity that wasn't survivable for me. And, that I needed to, really take pause and, recheck and, take an inventory of what was really important and how I needed to start pouring back into myself and taking care of myself, which is where, all of the plunging and all of that came from. And so, uh, to be called the ice woman, it's like, I will wear that badge proudly. It's like, all right, we're going to change the meaning of that. So, yeah.
I love it. I plunge. I try to plunge every day now. There's a plunge pool in my gym, which is incredible, and I'm up to 5 minutes. And I think about you every morning. I'm like, Sarah does it. I could do it.
Yeah. And there's just such a science behind doing it and what it does for you physically. But if you can control your mind while you're doing it, you have an access to a completely different area, space of your brain that for me, my highly analytical type A driver, director type personality, it has the ability to go to a completely different creative space, and there are no limits. And so that's why I do it. And it's been completely transformational.
I agree. Like for me, I'm like highly intuitive, empathetic, very sensitive to the world around me. And so I kind of recognized that I wasn't like I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, but there are like limitations that I put on myself. And for me, going into that cold pool, I'm like, no, like it's just about in my own head and I can overcome whatever it is that's telling me like it's too cold, I can't do it. And I leave that pool feeling just so powerful every single day. I love it. I'm gonna keep doing it forever.
Yeah, it's uh I found myself going to a plunge completely by, well, it wasn't by accident, but it was out of obligation.
Mm,
My previous trainer that I used to work with for quite some time, her partner was opening up a facility in Mesa called Reconnect. And, they do cold plunge and red light and infrared sauna and compression. And I was going in support of them. So I was going to go be good Sarah and go show up and do what I do because they were opening a business. And I really found my way back to me and there, and a way to a completely different new version of me, because I have people there taking a stand for me in a way that I don't take a stand for myself. So I have a plunge in my backyard and I plunge regularly in my backyard, and I still go there because they hold a space for being everything that they know that the universe has out there for me. Like they hold that space. Like they remove the regulator and they go, okay, like where are you still holding the resistance in your body, Sarah? What is it that you're asking for today? What is it that you're still holding on to? What are you going to release to the water today? And they just call you to ask those questions where you don't necessarily do that for yourself, which
mhm.
is what we did for the people who attended the weekend with us a couple weekends ago. The event that Jonathan Bonanno and I had here in Scottsdale. And um, we were just able to help people remove those limitations that they had put on themselves for whatever reason that they didn't know that they put there, and help them see that it was just a bunch of BS and it was a story that they told themselves, and they got to disappear the story. I mean, literally disappear the story. And it's the same stuff that for years I've just taken into the dental space and in coaching when I coach inside of dental teams. And I just didn't really realize that that's what I was doing.
Mhm.
I just showed up and I did what I did, and I would put in strategies and I would help with checklists and I would help with accountability. And I was helping grow the people. And I was helping grow the people from the inside out to, in some cases, like they would leave the teams to go do bigger and better things, right? And sometimes they would deselect themselves because it just wasn't the right place for them. But um, I've just really found that that's where the beauty is. You just help the people like remove their own regulators, and what is that limiting belief that they have, that always nagging, never-ending story, that bad version of ourselves that's back here, and like help them. And
Mhm.
this most recent in the last couple of years, the path, it's just it's so outside of dentistry too. And so I found myself that it's like, this part of me is not limited to dentistry. Like, yes,
No.
I'm a powerhouse in dentistry. And I'm great inside of dental teams and now inside of working with this DPO here in the Valley, which again, that was created out of something that I never would have seen myself living in both worlds, in both capacities, fully self-expressed, functioning both. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm enjoying it more than anything that I've ever done, just because I'm being fully self-expressed in both, in all of it. And, I would have never 5 years, even 10 years ago, said that you could do what I'm doing right now at the same time. And I mean, because who takes on a full COO role and keeps their own company open and does all of these other things, except people that have no ceiling? And I guess for years I was the one putting the ceiling on, and so it's been super bold way of being.
You said earlier that we don't hold the space for ourselves. We don't show up for ourselves in the way that we would for others. And I resonate with that a lot. And I think a lot of women that listen to this podcast do as well. Why is that? Why do you think that we give so much to others, but we have this like inability to even like hold compassion for ourselves or care for ourselves? Like, what is that about?
I think for all of us it can be something different. And um as we're developing and we're young children and we're being parented by our parents, there are moments in time, snapshots in time, that we take certain snapshots at certain timelines, a couple when we're very, very young, a couple when we're teenagers, and we create these stories around them. We attach the meaning to those things. And those are the things that we generate and we live our lives by. And we don't even realize that that's what's running the show. And we attached the meaning to it. Nobody else did. It wasn't like our mom and dad, said, oh, yeah, you're not worthy. No, they wouldn't do that. We're the ones who attach those meanings, or we're not lovable, or, all of those things, those limitations, those some people call them, if you've got the imposter syndrome thing going on, it can be created from back there in time, and a meaning that we attach to a snapshot of an event that we've been carrying around here, and it just runs the show. And so, out of a lot of work with a lot of different modalities, I have, I'm an NLP master practitioner, I'm a landmark graduate. There's just all kinds of depth there. When you start putting all of those things together and you finally apply them to yourself, you start re-identifying and just dismantling the story. Take a different snapshot and stick it in. I mean, that's as simple as it is. It's like, identify where the limiting belief is, where did it come from? And then you just start slowly dismantling them, and recreating the person that that you see yourself in the future as being. Like, we all see ourselves in our dreams, or when we're trying to be visionary, or when we're journaling and we're doing all of those things, as someday I will. Someday it'll be like this. Maybe after I find Mr. Right, or maybe after I get the right job, or this company hires me. And it's like, no, it's right here, right now. And you just start attaching the meaning now as if it exists. And then that's what you start bringing into your life and pulling forward. Like, you're just pulling yourself into that future, instead of that I keep dragging this ever always belief behind me like a big, chain. And we just start creating the new place, because
Yes.
we attached that meaning. Nobody else did. And we all have different ones. I mean, some it's about worthiness, some it's about lovable, some, I mean, the work that there is to do is that you have to find out what it is. You've got to go dig deep to like dig in and go like, okay, where did this start? Was it when I was 7? Was it when I was 8? And the first time that I could remember that I made up a story about something was when I was actually a lead role in a Christmas play. And I had the lead role of Mrs. Claus. And my dad was coming through the line as, after the event, and everybody was being congratulated and everybody was handshaking. And here comes my dad, who's this big, bold personality. He's the life of any room that he enters. Never met a stranger. And he's walking down this line and he gets right to me and he looks at me and he was like, oh, he's like, you are such a ham. And I had no idea what that meant. And the meaning that I attached to that at that young age was that it associated with a pig and that it was unhealthy. It was large. And I had attached all of these weird meanings to this statement about, oh, you're such a ham. And that was me. And when I finally was able to identify that I had attached that meaning to that event, that snapshot in my life, and it's like, you're not that, click, put this in, and you just put in the new snapshot and then you start generating from there. And it's that simple.
This is so important. And I didn't realize how important this was. And I think most people don't until they're on their like striving path. Like we're all like achieving and pushing and creating our life and manifesting our dreams. And then we hit a wall. And that wall is your past trauma. And like, let's just be real. We all have it. Everyone has trauma. Everyone. Like, find me a person that doesn't have trauma. They're not a real person. And so we attach so much shame, I think, to that. Like, it takes some time, I think, to like unearth, like, okay, actually, there are some things in the past that, like, as simple as that, like your dad saying this thing to you that had so much meaning and it created like an identity. We all have that thing, or multiple of those things, or many of them. And I really was the type of person for such a long time that was like, bah, no, my past does not define me. I am just going to push forward because I am like achiever and I'm going to do the thing. But you just can't. Like you said, it has to be from the inside out. It must be, which is why when I started like a female business coaching group, I called it Clearly Worthy because I know now, it took me a while. I know now that the foundation of all of my success and all of women's success is a sense and a feeling of worthiness and knowing you're lovable. That's how you get the big clients. That's how you achieve the dream thing or the partner that you want. It can't be the other way. And so often, and I know that this is, part of your story too, we have to hit that wall before we realize it. Like life is like, hey, Sarah, like tapping on the shoulder nicely. Hey, Allison, tapping me on the shoulder nicely. And then we're like, nah, whatever, moving forward. And then it's like throwing things at us. Allison, Sarah, pay attention. And we're like, nah. And then we hit the wall and we're like, okay, I'm listening. And my goal is like, we can start to listen before we hit that wall, or we can start to pay attention before we hit that wall. So tell me like a little bit about that story and when you kind of were like, wait a second, this needs to change.
Yeah, there was a period where I was engaged and I thought that was going to be my story. And, I was wearing the Rock of Gibraltar on my finger, and that's not a lie. And and for the longest time, it was like, how was and I was so embarrassed by that. I was like, was I so blinded by the ring that I didn't see everything else? And, I was engaged to someone that was still not finished with his last relationship. And I got the information. And, I had moved into a home that we were remodeling. I had sold the home that I was living in. And I had niched my business down to super, 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 super small because he wanted me in his practice. And when I found out, I was so stopped and so broken and so humiliated. I was full of shame. And then I felt like I needed to figure it out and give him a second chance. And my family thought that I was crazy. And I was like, I'm going to judge myself either way. I'm going to judge myself if I don't give it a chance. And I'm going to judge myself if I do. I would much rather go all in and know that it wasn't supposed to be, rather than questioning myself later.
Yeah.
Well, in that midst of that timeline, I was so embarrassed and broken, and that I was considering an easier way out. And I found myself opening Christmas presents before Christmas because I had been very extravagantly spending. And I just got real with myself in my bedroom one afternoon, and I'm like unwrapping Christmas presents. And I'm sitting here just totally feeling like I had nothing and I had nothing to give. And I was like, it would just be so much easier to not to be here. And, I could sit in the place where now I know where my brother must have been. And it was I had a gun, and I was like, it would be really easy to use it. And it had crossed my mind before. And I was like, but now it was like really there. It was like I don't even own the house that I'm in right now. And like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't even have a place to go. And it was from that place that all of a sudden an alarm went off because I had a lunch that I had to go to. And it was the reminder of the lunch that was the interruption in my state, that it was like, oh, I got a lunch date. And here's the type A director me that's totally scheduled, that's like, I can't miss a lunch date. And the lunch date turned into a happy hour into a life preserver. And that person now knows that they were that life ring. They didn't for the longest time. In having lunch with this individual, she was sharing with me, like, you're going to get through this. You are the most badass woman that I've ever met. The strongest. Take no name. I mean, take names, no prisoners, like that type of individual. And you're going to get through this. And I had shared with her, like, I was just sitting in my living room floor, like opening up Christmas presents, like sitting there, just like, and she was like, girl, she's like, that's the cover of your book. And I just went, oh, wow. And she's like, now, I think that you just have to do it nude, and then you'll be wrapped in ribbon and wrapping paper. And it was from that place that it was like, all right, Sarah, like get your shit together. And all of that was happening at the same time as getting back into going to church, reading good quality stuff, and getting myself back into climbing mountains and meditating at the top of mountains. And then shortly thereafter, getting into the water and plunging. And it was from that place. And I would not know the contrast of how good my life is had I not gone to that place. So even though that part was like terrible, I wouldn't know the contrast. And I now know the contrast, and I now know the community of badass women and badass people, individuals, that they're masquerading, and they're not being fully self-expressed. And I'm here to make a difference with them one by one.
Man, full body chills like 3 times during that story. And thank you for being so vulnerable and for sharing this. I think it's really important that we get to hear that other people have gone through hard things, because I think sometimes we feel so alone in our own shit, like our own stuff that we have, and we can feel like ashamed of our own struggles because we don't get to see or understand, especially in the world we live in today, like where you can you can button up in so many different ways on social media with your messaging. Like everyone can hide really, really well. And I think it's really important to know that like we all go through really hard things sometimes. And that is the contrast to like that greater self-expression when you can sit with it. And I'll just share something that I have had a hard time with is like going through hard things and then actually sitting with it. Like I'm like the queen of like, let's just put that in that box and put it over there and overwork myself for the next 2 years and not look at it. But when you can actually face the feelings and the like whatever it is that you have to go through in order to get to the other side, that's when that Sarah showing up fully expressed, your boldest sense of self, like being who you want to be, gets to happen, but it can't be the other way around. So
It can't be
I
the
don't
other. And then
know.
you still drag some of those old stories with you. And you find that there's just another snapshot that you need to go like, okay, I need to evaluate that one. But let's take a moment with that one. Why did I do that again?
Mm-hmm.
I had another relationship after that one, lasted for a year. And um, I had to really sit with why why was I in that relationship? Because there was something for me to learn there. And I completed it powerfully.
Mm-hmm.
When I knew that it was done, I just called it that it was done, and we both knew it was done. We were conveniently staying together because it was easy, and we knew that we were great people, and neither one of us wanted to hurt one another, right? But we both knew that, not quite our thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there was so much that I learned from that one that it's like, why did I give up those small pieces of myself just for a convenient relationship? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it was great to spend time with him. And yes, it was great to have a companion. And yes, he called me to do great things. But why was I giving up some small things? Because there was still the worthy piece in there. There's still the that thing, and it's like that's what I was there to learn. That's why that one was in my life. And that's what I sit with now is like, all right, like if I'm learning that I don't settle, then don't settle.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I want to go to church every Sunday and I'm, online dating, like it's in my profile. It's like,
Yeah.
why would I be embarrassed about going to church? Well, I used to be, because it was like, well, maybe that's going to limit the dating pool if I put in there that I want to go to, like I go to church. And it's like, so what? All right, it'll happen in God's time. And so that's how I'm looking at everything. Like that everything happens for a reason. And it's on me to figure out what's the reason.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I think we're all here in a way to like come back to ourselves. Like we go through these things in our life to like be reminded and nudged and aligned to that greatest Sarah, that greatest Allison. And when we can look at our obstacles in that way, which again, it's not easy to do it, it takes time to do it. But when we can, it allows us to really take the gifts from those really hard things or those tough moments or those things that like we maybe look at like a failed relationship or the relationship that didn't work out. That's not what it is. It's a experience to go through to help you connect back to that deeper, more important and most valuable part of yourself. And I think that's part of living boldly is just recognizing like, yes, not everything we choose is meant to be forever and it's not meant to be perfect, but it's meant to teach us something because we chose it and it was for a reason.
Yeah, 100%. I look at everything as it was the training ground for now.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can look at everything as that it was the training ground for me being here right now. And whatever I'm going through right now is the training ground for the next thing.
Mhm.
And it's just and I'm always working on myself as like, I want to look at me next year and go like, how much did I grow? Like, what really did I call myself to do in this last year and what did I accomplish rather than be, thinking that I didn't do something.
Mhm.
And, you know, and I'm just out proving myself right about that I can do hard things, climbing big mountains and things.
Literally climbing big
Yeah,
mountains.
literally. Uh, this summer, and the previous relationship that I had, like he is an extreme athlete. And I was I was trying to keep up with him before and always second guessing myself because I couldn't keep up with the extreme athlete. So I was judging myself for not being able to keep up with the extreme athlete. Like, so we would take off and go attempt to hike a mountain in waist deep snow. Okay, I hike down here at sea level and I do really well at sea level with no snow. But you take me to 7,000, 9,000 feet in waist deep snow, I'm not as good, right? Well, the elite athlete can make it to the top of the mountain. So I'm judging myself against the elite athlete that's running up the mountain, feeling bad that I only made it halfway. And it's 30 degrees, waist deep snow, and I made it, you know, I did like a, 3,000 elevation gain on the mountain. Most people would go like, Sarah, like, why are you judging yourself? But there's me, I get off the mountain and I'm like, well, I didn't get to the top. And so it was out of that relationship that it was like, I could prove to myself that I could do hard things because I wasn't going to let myself not finish the mountain. So, and 6 years before that, I had attempted to do the highest mountain that's here in Arizona. And I'd always told everybody I made it halfway. I did not make it halfway. I probably didn't even make it quarter of the way. And I didn't even realize that it was only a quarter of the way when I did it 6 years ago. But this summer, I successfully finished the tallest three mountains here in Arizona, just because I wanted to prove to myself that I could do the one. So I did the one that stopped me halfway up in waist deep snow, and it was easy. And I did it in an up and back, left here in Phoenix, got up there, did the mountain and came back, which that in and of itself is really tough. I didn't realize how tough that was until I tried taking a friend of mine up there. And her and I are equally matched down here. And she got altitude sickness within the first mile of trying to hike one of the mountains. But I proved to myself that I could do hard things. So inside of less than 9 days, I did three mountains, the tall of which is just under it's like 13.5. And it was like, you know, 35,000 feet of elevation gain inside of 9 days, about 30 miles of trail. And I did it all in up and backs, which is going from sea level to that elevation and down. And after I sat with that accomplishment in and of itself, because I was just looking at it like one mountain, like I'm going to go do a mountain. Like I got to go get to the top of that mountain. And I did it and it was easy. And I'm like, I think I'm going to go do another one. Then I went and I did the next one. And then I got my friend up the mountain. Her and I hike down here all the time. And I got her up the mountain, even though she was having elevation or altitude sickness. We were able to breathe through it based on the breathing exercises and stuff that I had learned through breath work. And we were able to she got within 400 feet of the top. And on the way down, she's like, I don't know how I did that. I wouldn't have been able to do that without you. I didn't believe in myself enough. And I was so scared that I was physically going to be harmed because she was having a hard time breathing. She's like, I don't know how I would have done it. And it was out of doing that I'm just like, this is just life. And it's just one thing at a time. And you got a big dreamer. I said that backwards, didn't I? You have to dream bigger. And we have to really just start writing down and being bold with what we're writing down. And just keep going. Like the next mountain. What's the next mountain? What's the next mountain? And for me, it's all
Yes.
mountains, even though they're not mountains. But I look at them as all just, it's another mountain.
Yeah. I think the thing I love about that story so much is that like we sometimes I think look at these goals and these achievements or these moments like it's as soon as we get to the top, it's like, okay, then we're done. But the truth is we're not like, and that's not the purpose. The purpose is that we get to the top of the mountain and we look around and we're like, wow, I'm so proud of myself and who I've become in order to climb this mountain. Like that's the view is amazing and the feeling of achievement is amazing, but the real gift is like you and your strong legs and your strong mind and your resilience. That's the gift. And then the other gift is that you get to take that person with you to the next one. And so thinking about it like that, I always just feel a lot more encouragement and resilience and hope for my future because we don't have to just stop at a mountain. Like we're never going to anyways. And so any challenge or like difficult thing you're going through or like your goal to be living more boldly, it just keeps growing. It doesn't, you don't slide down, you don't get worse, you just keep growing and learning. If you could summarize like the three things, I'm putting on the spot here, but if you could summarize the three things that we can leave here knowing that it takes to live a more expressed or fully expanded or bold life, what would you say those things are? And if you're like, no, Allison, it's five, we can rock with that too.
Um, it is five. And for me, I started without knowing that that's what I was doing. I put together kind of a mental process that I was going through and later named it focus, and that it's a focus framework, and that I'm always going back to, okay, what's the foundation that I'm building on? And so that I really sit with and go like, all right, so what's the foundation? What am I building on right now? And then I'm going to look at it. I'm going to go, okay, what am I optimizing about it? What do I need to really look at? What am I throwing away? What am I hiring somebody else to do? What do I really need to grow myself in? And then I'm really celebrating and slowing down to celebrate. I was not celebrating. Like I did the mountain, drove home, right? I wasn't, I mean, I had a small little celebration at the top, but I wasn't celebrating until I was able to actually add it all up, right? And so taking the time to celebrate, and then I need to, now you're putting me on the spot. Now I don't even remember what my own you is. I have to get back with you about my you. How bad is that? You put me on the spot.
I did.
You did.
We can go to S and then I'm sure you'll remember the U.
Well, no, now you just stopped me. Now I don't even know. Um, Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have to edit that out. Um, because it's just a process that I started just living in, that I needed to always identify the foundation that I'm building on. And then, is there anything that I got to structure and do differently? And sometimes that's cracking my own heart open and taking the time to really celebrate that I did something well. Then I need to go through and look at it from the place of, is there anything else that I need to uncover that I'm not looking at? Is there another snapshot that I need to dismantle? And generally that comes if I'm journaling and spending quiet time with myself. And then I'm going to shift into high gear. Whatever it is that I've uncovered around and I need to optimize about, then it's like, all right, what am I going to shift into? And then move myself forward and then try and put in the pieces to make the shift. So when I say shift, it's like, okay, I'm going into fifth gear, right? I'm not going to stay in granny low and keep. So I've just really put myself through what I call my own funnel. And I keep going to the top and dropping myself back through. And it's what I've been doing. And then I just attached the name so I could try and remember it. And, and it's just about that. It's just keep working on it.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that framework. I love frameworks. I think it helps us take the things that we have learned and have gone through and then give us like a path forward in a better way. So I'm I love that framework.
Well, it's funny because the word means a lot. I've used focus in my career a lot. And this is not mine. I heard it in a meeting. I don't even know how many years ago. I heard a coach say that she didn't huddle. And I'm like, how could you not huddle? And she's like, I have a focus meeting. And 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 I wish I knew who I heard it from so that I could continue to give this brilliant woman credit. But it's facilitating outcomes causing unprecedented success. And so from that point in my career moving forward, it's like we have focus meetings. We have, we have a focus huddle. And so the word has always resonated with me. And I always look at it like a magnifying glass. And it's what I feel like I've done with myself over the last couple of years is that I've just kind of put a magnifying glass on all of the areas to just be big and bold.
I love it. I think all of our listeners are going to get so much from this because it is like it's an inside job and it is a process. And when we can figure out the needle movers and the ways that we can shift and look at ourselves differently, that's how we get to live this life boldly and our most expanded self. And so I want to honor you, Sarah. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for me personally. Just your presence alone. You're an inspiration to so many people in our industry. You help so many people. And I just know like it's just the beginning in the way that you're serving others and supporting others. But mostly it's really through the way that you've honored yourself that we get to watch as an example. So I'm so inspired by you. If if my listeners want to hear your next retreat or your next I know you probably don't call it a retreat, you call it something completely different. But your next event or how
Yeah.
they can get in touch with you to learn more, where can they find you?
They can find me at Incito Enterprises. So I'm on Instagram at Incito Enterprises. They can find me in Sarah Cottingham, and the event side, we actually have it as the Psycho Incito Experience with on Instagram, so they can find me there. I'm all over social, so all they have to do is put in Sarah Cottingham and look for the one that's in the ice.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so, so much. Go and check out Sarah, what she's up to. I spent a good while on your Instagram the other day, just watching the experiences that your audience has gone through. And I'm just so excited to hear and see where this is going to continue to grow. So thank you so much for being on the Clearly Worthy podcast. It's been such a pleasure having you here.
Total an honor for me. Thank you.